How does a company go from the second largest aircraft manufacturer in the world to a dramatically declining business with a tarnished reputation and unreliable aircraft? This is McDonnell Douglas, one of the most controversial and disliked airplane manufacturers of all time. But it wasn't always like this. Believe it or not, they used to be one of the leaders in aircraft engineering and production. So today, I'm gonna take you through the questionable executive decisions, priority of profits over safety, and the two devastating accidents that ripped this company apart. Back in 1967, McDonnell Douglas was born as a merger from two companies, McDonnell Aircraft, specializing in military aviation, and Douglas Aircraft Company, specializing in civil aviation. Douglas Aircraft Company had seen great success, having introduced the highly successful DC-9 just 2 years prior. However, the inability to keep up with demand and high costs of developing their new DC-10 crippled the company, resulting in the merger. And so, McDonnell Douglas was born into a strong number 2 position in the worldwide aircraft manufacturing market. And in 1970, just 3 years later, the DC-10 airliner was finally rolled out. It was marketed as a medium to long-range jet, more fuel efficient than the Boeing 747. MD also claimed that it was lower cost to operate than the Lockheed L-1011, a strong competitor. And with the addition of 4 variants, McDonnell Douglas was sure they had a winning product on their hands. But results weren't what they expected. So the DC-10 was successful, to a degree. In its lifetime, almost 400 were built and operated with huge airlines like United, American, and KLM. But Boeing simply had the upper hand. At the time of the DC-10's release, every gap of the market was already filled by Boeing. Long range, Boeing 747. Medium range, 727. Short range, 737. It was kind of awkward for the DC-10 to squeeze into Boeing's massive empire of similarly designed pilot-friendly planes. Not to mention, yet another competitive force was arising from the depths of Europe: Airbus. You see, 2 years after the DC-10 was rolled out, Airbus introduced their brand new A300. It was a twin-engine wide-body aircraft that was able to carry out much of the same tasks as the DC-10, but was massively more fuel-efficient. Airlines simply saw Boeing and Airbus aircraft as much more modern, efficient machines, while McDonnell Douglas stuck with outdated designs. So MD was already not doing the greatest. But soon, it would get much worse. On March 3rd, 1974, Turkish Airlines Flight 981 had just taken off from Istanbul, headed to London. Takeoff and the first few minutes of the flight went normally until passengers and crew suddenly heard a deafening bang during climb. A cargo door had blown off and detached from the aircraft, causing an explosive decompression. The explosion severed critical control cables and the pilots soon lost control. And just 8 minutes later, the plane crashed into a forest near Paris. This accident exposed a huge design flaw with the cargo hold doors on the DC-10. Since the doors opened outwards, a sort of latching mechanism was required to keep the doors in place. However, this latch was very poorly designed and confusing. The cargo door could close even if the latches were in the wrong position, which meant it could have been secured improperly without anyone noticing. And so, Turkish Airlines Flight 981 took off with an incorrectly secured cargo door, causing the disaster that followed. Although McDonnell Douglas did immediately fix this flaw, completely overhauling the mechanism's design, the mark on their reputation was permanent. The DC-10 was perceived as a death trap by the media and customers. A lot of airlines, especially in Europe, completely lost trust in the company, solidifying the stereotype that MD was willing to cut corners for safety. And in May of 1979, disaster struck again for the DC-10. Upon takeoff from Chicago, American Airlines Flight 191 lost its left engine. The aircraft only climbed a few hundred feet before losing control and crashing into an open area. Although the root cause of this crash was determined to be a maintenance issue, the design vulnerabilities of McDonnell Douglas's aircraft came to light. Their reputation took another big hit as the media spread heavy criticism about the company, labeling them with an abysmal safety record. Sales of the DC-10 dramatically decreased and the program faded towards inexistence. From then on, it was a series of swings and misses for McDonnell Douglas. In the short-range market, the MD-80 and MD-90 were eventually introduced, but fell short to the all-reliable 737 and the brand-new modern A320. In the long-range market, MD introduced the new MD-11, essentially an upgraded DC-10 which they claimed to have better fuel efficiency and longer range. But it didn't live up to expectations, underperforming again to the Boeing 767 and Airbus A340. McDonnell Douglas slipped to 3rd place as Airbus took its 2nd place spot in the worldwide market. Things were crumbling down. With a declining amount of orders and a tarnished reputation, the company was acquired by its biggest competitor, Boeing, in 1997. And just like that, McDonnell Douglas's legacy had come to an end. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks and bye.